Sanford and Son was a must-see show back in the 70s. Everyone was talking about it. It starred a stubborn old black dude, Fred Sanford, and his more chill son, Lamont, who ran a junkyard together. The show was pretty edgy for its time, dealing with real stuff that most folks didn't see on TV. Some people thought it was a big step forward, showing a black family on TV and all. Others thought it leaned too much on stereotypes. But no matter what, it was a huge hit and got people watching. The show's been off the air for decades, but it's still a classic. Today we will take a step back to see actors who have sadly died. Let's go. Frank Nelson as co-pilot. Frank Nelson's career spanned over 60 years, starting in radio and transitioning smoothly to television and film. He wasn't just a performer, though. Expand More Nelson was a champion for actors' rights, a founding member of the Actors Union, and even helped create a pension program for freelance performers. While his signature exasperated "yees" might be his most recognizable bit, Nelson had a prolific career. He voiced iconic cartoon characters, landed recurring roles on shows like The Jack Benny Program, and even appeared in several episodes of Sanford and Son. Expand, more sadly, Frank Nelson passed away from cancer in 1986. He left behind a legacy not just of entertainment, but of advocating for his fellow actors. Whitman Mayo as Grady Wilson. Whitman Mayo spent years honing his craft on the prestigious Harlem stage of the Lafayette Theater. Then, a chance encounter with Norman Lear, the showrunner behind Sanford and Son, propelled him onto national television. Originally intended as a one-time guest role, Mayo's portrayal of the jittery and hilarious Grady Wilson proved to be a runaway hit. He quickly became a fan favorite, even stealing the spotlight from the show's lead at times. However, the magic didn't translate perfectly to a spin-off. Grady struggled to find its footing and was canceled after a single season. Mayo returned to the original Sanford and Son, even appearing in a later spin-off, Sanford Arms. Despite his continued television work, Grady's shadow loomed large. While Mayo enjoyed a long career, landing major roles often proved difficult. Sadly, Mayo died of a heart attack on May 22, 2001, at Atlanta's Grady Memorial Hospital. Thalmus Rasulala as Heart Fund Man. Starting out in the 1960s, Rasulala was a tall, impressive black actor with a booming voice. Back then, he went by the name Jack Crowder. He wasn't just any actor, though. He was a musical comedy star on the New York stage. He even won an award for his debut on Broadway. Rasulala also brought his talents to the big screen. He started with movies in the early 1970s and appeared in films of all sorts, funny musicals, action flicks, and even some movies that were part of a big genre back then called blaxploitation. Rasulala also showed up on TV shows like What's Happening? He delivered some of his best performances on TV movies like The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, too. Sadly, he died on October 9, 1991, from a heart attack in Albuquerque, New Mexico. David Huddleston as First Cop. David Huddleston always wanted to be an actor. This big guy, who often wore glasses, started acting in school plays and church shows back in his home state of Virginia. In 1985, he played Santa Claus in a movie that wasn't very good. But then over a decade later, he scored a big role in the Coen brothers movie The Big Lebowski as a rich guy in a wheelchair. He also did a lot of TV throughout his career, everything from comedies to dramas. He even created his own short-lived sitcom about a Southern mayor. He even got nominated for an Emmy Award for his role on The Wonder Years. His last acting job was in a movie called Locker 13 in 2014. David Huddleston passed away in 2016 at the age of 85. Gabriel Dell as Gunman. Who was the East Side kid who wasn't always a kid? Meet Gabriel Dell, a versatile actor who started young and defied expectations throughout his career. Unlike his fellow actors, Dell wasn't typecast as a gang member. He donned various hats, playing reporters, cops, even reformed gangsters, showcasing his acting range. Del's journey stretched from church choirs to Hollywood, and his later roles, like the sardonic hitman with a surprising sense of humor in Framed, cemented his place as a memorable character actor. Sadly, Del died in North Hollywood of leukemia in 1988 at age 68. Noam Pitlick as Officer Swanee Swanhauser. From captivating audiences on screen to captivating them behind the camera, Noam Pitlick's career took a fascinating turn. Though many may remember him as Officer Swanhauser on Sanford and Son, Pitlick began as a talented actor, starring alongside icons on shows like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. He later transitioned to directing, amassing an impressive filmography with over 100 episodes of Barney Miller alone. If you tuned into TV in the 70s or 80s, you likely saw his directing touch on shows like Barney Miller. Pitlick tragically passed away from lung cancer in 1999 at the age of 66, Don Bexley as Bubba Bexley. Beyond the confines of an autobiographical film or TV vehicle, it's not that often that an actor gets to play a character with whom he shares the same last name, but that was the case with the first and arguably most famous role of the late Don Bexley, who, in the popular mid-1970s sitcom Sanford and Son, was simply Bubba Bexley. Bubba was a friend of the lead character of Sanford, portrayed by Red Fox. After Fox left Sanford and Son in '77 and his co-star, Demond Wilson, departed because of a salary dispute, NBC attempted to continue on with Bexley and others in the form of the spin-off The Sanford Arms. However, that series did not make it past its first year. Sadly, Bexley died of heart and kidney failure on April 15, 1997, at Hampton Centara Hospital. He was 87 years old. Matthew Stymie Beard as Otis Littlejohn. After Our Gang, Beard continued to find work in Hollywood. He appeared in notable films such as Captain Blood and Jezebel, showcasing his versatility beyond the comedic roles of his youth. His later years saw him in parts in Truck Turner, The Buddy Holly Story, and on TV sitcoms like Sanford and Son. Despite his early success, Beard faced challenges common to many child actors, including transitioning to adult roles. However, he managed to navigate these waters with grace and continued to work in the industry until his passing on January 8, 1981. Pat Morita as Ah Chew. Battling a tough childhood, Pat set his sights on comedy and, by 30, was cracking up crowds coast to coast. After a sweet gig in thoroughly modern Millie, he landed on shows like Sanford and Son, proving his comedic chops. Then came Happy Days. Arnold, the malt shop owner, wasn't the main attraction, but Pat stole the show. His brilliance landed him his own sitcom, but fate had even bigger plans. As Mr. Miyagi, Pat became the ultimate underdog sensei, mentoring a bullied teen and launching a mega franchise. His performance earned him an Oscar nod and cemented his status as a pop culture legend. Sadly, Pat Morita died of kidney failure following a urinary tract and gallbladder bacterial infection on November 24, 2005, at his home in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the age of 73. Philip Bruns as Calvin. TV producer Norman Lear had a lot of smash hits during his career, but Mary Hartman was not one of them. The short-lived 1976-1977 soap opera parody did, however, afford actor Philip Bruns the role of Father George Shumway for 18 episodes. To more contemporary audiences, Bruns is noted for having been the original Morty Seinfeld on Seinfeld. Early in his career, Bruns was also a very busy TV actor. In the mid to late 70s, he appeared on 4 episodes of Cops comedy classic Barney Miller as Elvin Swift. His participation in the 1982 Peter O'Toole comedy My Favorite Year led later to an unusual fringe benefit. The preface to Bruns's advice book was written by the British actor. Sadly, he died of natural causes at a hospital in Los Angeles on February 8, 2012. Basil Hoffman as Maynard. Hoffman's career lasted for ages, over 50 years. He started out in plays and commercials before landing a role on a TV show in the 60s. He wasn't just about the big screen, though. Hoffman was a regular on TV, too. He popped up on shows like Marcus Welby, M.D., and even the classic Mass H. The 80s brought him even more TV roles, including a recurring spot on a show with a young Sarah Jessica Parker. Hoffman kept acting well into his later years. Sadly, he passed away in 2021. Red Fox as Fred G. Sanford. Red Fox, born John Elroy Sanford, wasn't always a TV star. He started young, doing comedy in black clubs around New York. His jokes were wild, not for everyone, but they launched his career. In the 50s, he made comedy records, then hit the big time with stand-up in Vegas during the 60s. He's best known for playing Fred Sanford on Sanford and Son, but his real breakthrough was as a groundbreaking comedian. Gregory Sierra as Julio Fuentes. Gregory Sierra was a busy actor you probably saw a lot on TV in the 70s and 80s. He played a variety of Latino characters, from detectives to doctors to everyday guys. You might remember him as Julio on Sanford and Son, or Detective Amenguale on Barney Miller. He even had some movie roles, including parts in Beneath the Planet of the Apes and The Towering Inferno. Later in his career, he kept working in TV movies and shows, and even popped up in some comedies like Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. He passed away in 2021. Sadly, Sierra died on January 4, 2021, after a long battle with stomach and liver cancer, at age 83. LaWanda Page as Aunt Esther Anderson. LaWanda Page was way cooler than your typical sitcom aunt. Born in 1920, she grew up in St. Louis and hung out with the future comedian Red Fox. In the 60s, LaWanda swapped fire for laughs, moving to L.A. and joining a comedy group. Her old friend Red Fox hooked her up with the role of Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son. Aunt Esther, with her sharp wit and love of the Bible, became a total fan favorite. LaWanda even played Aunt Esther in a couple of other shows. Throughout her career, she fought to make sure black actors got paid what they deserved. Sadly, Page died of a heart attack following complications from diabetes on September 14, 2002, at age 81. Dick O'Neill as Commissioner. Dick O'Neill was a character actor who left his mark on both television and film. He was probably best known for playing Charlie Cagney on the long-running police drama Cagney and Lacey. This role showed off his talent for creating believable and interesting characters. O'Neill wasn't just a TV star, though. He also appeared in a bunch of movies throughout his career, including thrillers like The Taking of Pelham 123 and dramas like Preezy's Honor. No matter the role, O'Neill brought a sense of realism to his characters that made them seem like real people. He passed away in 1998 at the age of 70, but his performances are still enjoyed by fans today. Nancy Culp as May Hopkins. While Nancy Culp's most famous role might be as Jane Hathaway on The Beverly Hillbillies, she also played May Hopkins in a few episodes of Sanford and Son. But Culp wasn't just a one-hit wonder. She went on to have a long career on both the big and small screen, including appearances on tons of shows throughout the 70s and 80s. Culp wasn't afraid to step outside of Hollywood either. In 1984, she even ran for Congress in Pennsylvania. Although she ultimately lost the election, it showed her strong spirit and desire to make a difference. Sadly, Nancy Culp passed away from cancer in 1991. James Gregory as Commander. James Gregory was lean, with wavy hair, and often played cops or other tough guys in movies and TV shows. He started out on stage in the late 30s, even appearing on Broadway in a few shows. World War II put his acting career on hold while he served in the Marines. After the war, he decided to ditch Wall Street and stick with acting full-time. Even though he focused on film and TV, he still managed to return to Broadway later in his career. He was in some pretty big shows too, like Death of a Salesman. Sadly, he died of natural causes on September 16, 2002, in Sedona, Arizona, aged 90. Fritzie Burr as Woman on Plane. Fritzie Burr was Philly through and through, but with a dream bigger than any hoagie. Acting was her jam, and she started out cracking up crowds in theater, even playing a wild nurse in a comedy act. By the 50s, Burr was belting out tunes on Broadway alongside superstars like Barbra Streisand. No slouch, she could also play every single part in Fiddler on the Roof, proving she was a total theater chameleon. Hollywood came calling, and Burr wasn't one to miss an opportunity. She even guest-starred on shows everyone loved in the 90s, like Friends and Seinfeld. Sadly, Burr died in Fort Myers, Florida, of natural causes on January 17, 2003, age 78. Leonard Stone as Mr. Grayson. Leonard Stone was a master of the supporting role, a guy who could steal the scene without ever needing the spotlight. With over 130 credits to his name across 50 years, Stone left his mark on everything from classic TV shows to a timeless movie musical. The 1960s were Stone's prime time. He popped up everywhere, from courtroom dramas like Perry Mason to secret agent adventures in Mission Impossible. He even had a recurring role as a goofy camp doctor on a show called Camp Run-Amok. Sadly, Leonard Stone passed away in 2011, just shy of his 88th birthday. Sadly, he passed away in 2021. Red Fox as Fred G. Sanford. Red Fox, born John Elroy Sanford, wasn't always a TV star. He started young, doing comedy in black clubs around New York. His jokes were wild, not for everyone, but they launched his career. Ron Glass as Herman Edwards. As the years went by, Ron kept surprising us. He took a deep dive into sci-fi with the cult classic Firefly, playing Shepard Book, the wise and calming dude on a spaceship. Talk about a switch from sitcoms. He even lent his awesome voice to cartoons like Rugrats. Basically, there wasn't much Ron couldn't do, from live-action laughs to animated adventures. Oh, and superhero fans, he even popped up on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ron Glass was a true legend. He could make you laugh until you cried, but then turn around and deliver a performance with a real heart. The TV world lost a gem when he passed away in 2016. We'll miss you, Ron. Bear Richards as Aunt Ethel. Don't let all the mom roles fool you. Bay Richards was a powerhouse actress who stole scenes on stage and screen for decades. While audiences might recognize her from films like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, where she held her own opposite Sidney Poitier, Bay Richards was much more than just a Hollywood mom. A seasoned stage performer, Richards brought depth and charisma to every character she tackled. On TV, she could be everything from Bill Cosby's sitcom mom to the ailing yet strong-willed mother of Dr. Sadly. Richards died from emphysema in her hometown of Vicksburg, Mississippi at the age of 80. Less than a month after winning an Emmy Award. Marlene Clark as Janet Lawson. Before gracing our screens as Lamont's fiancée Janet in Sanford and Son, Marlene Clark carved a unique path in Hollywood. She slayed audiences in the cult classic Ganja and Hess, and even shared the screen with legend Sidney Poitier in her film debut. Clark wasn't afraid to take on edgy roles, but she could also deliver a charming performance on sitcoms. After leaving Hollywood in the 80s, Clark continued to be a creative force, opening a boutique and managing a restaurant. Marlene Clark's legacy extends beyond acting. She was a true trendsetter and a beautiful soul who left the world a little brighter in 2023. Sadly, Clark died on May 18, 2023, the same day as her Slaughter co-star Jim Brown. She was 85. Mary Alice as Frances Victor. Mary Alice's journey to Hollywood wasn't a straight shot. In the mid-60s, she honed her craft in community theater, even taking on laundry duty for the cast to make ends meet. But her talent couldn't be hidden for long. Off-Broadway productions followed, and soon she was captivating audiences in New York City. The 70s saw Mary Alice land her screen debut and guest appearances on shows like Policewoman and Sanford and Son. Mary Alice delivered powerful performances in films like Malcolm X and Down in the Delta, earning an Emmy Award for her work in I'll Fly Away. Mary Alice retired from acting in 2005, leaving behind a legacy of captivating performances on stage and screen. Sadly, Alice died on July 27, 2022, at her residence in Manhattan at the age of 85 due to natural causes. Danny Wells as Danny Taylor. Did you know the iconic Luigi from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show was voiced by the same actor who played the friendly bartender on The Jeffersons? That's the impressive range of Canadian actor Danny Wells. He landed the role of Charlie, the bartender on the groundbreaking sitcom The Jeffersons, becoming a familiar face for millions of viewers. Throughout the 80s, he continued his television success with supporting roles in popular shows like the action-packed Chips and The A-Team. His talents extended beyond the screen. Beginning in 1989, he voiced Luigi, bringing the mustachioed plumber to life for a new generation. He even brought his talents to the world of video games, including the popular Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Sadly, Wells died in Toronto on November 28, 2013, of cancer at the age of 72. Lillian Randolph as Aunt Hazel. Randolph began her professional career singing on local radio in Cleveland and Detroit. At WXYZ in Detroit, she was noticed by George W. Trendle, the station owner and developer of The Lone Ranger, who helped her get into radio training courses. This led to roles in local radio shows, and in 1936, she moved to Los Angeles to work on Al Jolson's radio show, among others. Film and television. In addition to her radio work, Randolph appeared in hundreds of radio shows, motion pictures, short subjects, and television shows. She contributed her voice to the character Mammy Two Shoes in 19 Tom and Jerry cartoons between 1940 and 1952. Her filmography includes roles that often portrayed the black domestic, a role she defended and played intelligently throughout her career. Sadly, Randolph died of cancer at Arcadia Methodist Hospital in Arcadia, California on September 12, 1980. Birthday. Sadly, he passed away. Greg Morris as Freddie Wills. After finishing high school, actor Greg Morris joined the Army, serving from the early 50s to the mid-50s. He later studied drama at Ohio State University and the University of Iowa before moving to Seattle to pursue acting. Initially, he appeared in mostly minor roles on stage, but this garnered some Hollywood interest. He made a guest appearance in an episode of the comedy series The Dick Van Dyke Show and the classic sci-fi anthology The Twilight Zone. Morris's big break came in the mid-60s when he was offered a leading role in the spy series Mission Impossible, playing the electronics expert Barney Collier. Even after the show's conclusion in the early 70s, Morris continued to appear on several other shows, including the sitcoms Sanford and Son and The Jeffersons. Despite numerous guest roles, Morris did not gain a regular television role again until the premiere of the cop show Vegas. In the late 80s, Morris reprised his role as Barney for the television remake of Mission Impossible, alongside his son Phil Morris, who portrayed his father's character's successor. When the film version of Mission Impossible was released in the mid-90s, Morris openly criticized it. He passed away at the age of 62 in his Las Vegas home after a near-decade-long battle with cancer. We're sad to say goodbye to these talented actors who have left a lasting impression. Share your favorite memories of them in the comments below. Stay tuned for more content next time. To the ailing yet strong-willed mother of Dr. Sadley, Richards died from emphysema in her hometown of Vicksburg, Mississippi at the age of 80, less than a month after winning an Emmy Award. Marlene Clark as Janet Lawson. Before gracing our screens as Lamont's fiancée Janet in Sanford and Son, Marlene Clark carved a unique path in Hollywood. She slayed audiences in the cult classic Ganja and Hess, and even shared the screen with legend Sidney Poitier in her film debut. Clark wasn't afraid to take on edgy roles, but she could also deliver a charming performance on sitcoms. After leaving Hollywood in the 80s, Clark continued to be a creative force, opening a boutique and managing a restaurant. Marlene Clark's legacy extends beyond acting. She was a true trendsetter and a beautiful soul who left the world a little brighter in 2023. Sadly, Clark died on May 18, 2023, the same day as her Slaughter co-star Jim Brown. She was 85. Mary Alice as Frances Victor. Mary Alice's journey to Hollywood wasn't a straight shot. In the mid-60s, she honed her craft in community theater, even taking on laundry duty for the cast to make ends meet. But her talent couldn't be hidden for long. Off-Broadway productions followed, and soon she was captivating audiences in New York City. The 70s saw